Today on Locked On Canadiens, are there any free agents left?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 1108. That is a mouthful of Locked On Canadiens. As you know, we are your daily podcast where you get your team every single day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Laura Sab, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined as always by the wonderful Scott Matla of Habs Eyes on the Prize, and the clock is ticking on Scott's time with us, so we are going to get the most out of it and do as many mailbag questions from you guys as possible. Scott, how are you doing on this extremely humid day?
It's hot here in Buffalo in that I have not stopped sweating since I got up this morning. Surviving the worst part of summer, I think. For everyone who likes summer more than winter or fall, I think you're wrong. I don't. What now?
I'm saying, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, like truly, it's going to be 95 tomorrow, and I'm not made for that. I can only take off so many layers of clothes. I would rather be under a nice comfy blanket or something else, because it'll also be football and hockey season, but that's neither here nor there right now.
Well, that's it. Like our ad said, if the sports stops sporting, but also like everybody who's always begging for summer and then calling weather like this nice, like it is not nice. Nice weather is like 15 degrees and fall. Like that is nice weather. Nice weather is you can go outside without dying. Anyway, this is about the offseason, and we've got tons of mailbag questions, some left over from last week and some that popped up in our mailbag today. So Scott, what do you say? Are you ready to tackle some of our mailbag questions from longtime friends and newer writers?
I mean, I'm always ready for mailbag questions because we love summer content, because currently GMs aren't doing much of anything at all. So we are begging and pleading for content in that regard.
All right. So let me start with a question from our good friend Robert Rice. Submitting this one before I forget, and hopefully it gets made irrelevant by a trade or two. I'm not sure how many are aware that Washington is currently $13.3 million over the cap as of right now, with a 22-man roster for the 2024-2025 season. While I imagine some of this may be relieved by Nicholas Backstrom being placed on IR, that still leaves them over the cap and in need of relief. I know many names have been thrown around for possible veterans to add to the roster for upcoming season, but has anyone considered TJ Oshie? He's on the final year of his contract with the Capitals at $5.75 million, so he's instant relief for them and doesn't burden Montreal after this year. Given that we've seen this move by Hughes already, do you think it's possible he offers Washington relief on their cap situation in exchange for a first or second round pick?
I mean, they're currently $13 million over the cap, and even with LTIR, meaning TJ Oshie, they're still over $4 million. I'm not against it, but I also think Kent Hughes is looking to get into the not needing LTIR at this moment sort of thing. He said he wants to be able to not have to put Carey Price on IR and fit everybody under the cap before they make that move. And it seems like they're inching closer and closer to that. I would be curious because Oshie said that he's trying to see a doctor or something about, the cause of these, that it seems like he might attempt to try and play again, which maybe not the best idea. It gives Washington some cap relief, not enough to get off the of that, which I'm very curious what they're going to do. Seeing as they've spent $1 bajillion this offseason. I'm not against it, but that's got to be a good first round pick. And it seems like Washington is loaded up to try and be good for the last 2 years of Ovechkin's contract with PLD under there. trading for Andrew Mangiapane, extending a guy like Alexi Protas, signing Matt Waff forever, trading for Jacob Chikrin, extending Rasmus Sandin. This feels like a team that's trying to bank on a couple years of contending still. They're still just a mishmash of dudes who are both old and somewhat young in here that I would be curious what happens, especially since the Capitals now have a new GM in Chris Patrick, who took over for their previous GM, Brian McClellan. I couldn't think of his name for some reason. I almost called him Michael, and I'm like, that's definitely not the right answer for this. They do have to have a little bit of faith that this is going to work out, but I'm not against it if the price is right. It's just like the Sean Monahan deal, only this guy is never going to play a game again for them. But I also think they don't want to just kind of ship Oshie off. They might want to do right by him as best they can. I'm not opposed to the idea if the pick is good enough, though.
And I think for me, it's really TJ Oshie seems to think that he could come back. And I think Robert's question was kind of based on the idea that he could, but we've seen back injuries in the past. We've seen what they do to players. Even if they do come back, they never come back the same as they were, right? And that to me is the biggest thing. So I would personally, I would try to avoid it, but TJ Oshie is going to be attractive to anybody who was trying to use the LTIR buyout. All right, so we've got a question from Bill Van V. Now that the initial wave of free agency has passed us and the dust has settled, do you think the Habs will sign any players that remain? They have approximately $10 million reportedly under the cap, so they have room to tinker. Or do they keep this for future trades or cost savings? For example, Daniel Sprong is available and could be a nice second-line addition at a decent price who's 27 and can grow into a leadership role. Or, to a lesser extent, Michael McLeod is only 25 and can score some and should have room to grow. If the Habs trade away Matheson, they may need a veteran like Tyson Barrie to help the younger players and help the power play. What are your thoughts? Okay, so here's my question. Does everyone who keeps talking about a Matheson trade know something I don't know? I feel like some of the discourse is kind of like it's a done deal.
I think it's people projecting. And also, to go back in this question, the guy suggesting that we sign Michael McLeod knows that he's on trial for the Hockey Canada case, and I don't want him anywhere near this team, correct? It doesn't matter that he's 26 and a free agent. Absolutely not. And that goes for any of these players.
Right. And so I can't remember which player it was that was he was oh, he was only there and he didn't actually perpetrate anything. But either way, I don't want to touch any of those players.
No, there's a reason why they're a free agent. There's a reason why Carter Hart is a free agent and why these other players are free agents, and that absolutely not. And I also look at Michael McLeod's stats, and I'm looking at this and going, there's not really a player in there that I feel like adding to this team right now. We don't need another bottom six forward. Daniel Sprong is the name I think that I am most intrigued by, and that he still isn't signed and feels like this is going to reek of guy who shows up to someone's camp on a PTO and then gets a 1-year contract, scores 20 goals, and gets cashed out at the deadline. That would be perfect for the Canadiens. I think that many fans want to see Joshua Waugh in that second line spot. Understandably, I am also one of those fans. But if they're intent on, kind of slow playing this is the last year of trying to maybe trade some of these 1-year deals and whatnot, Sprong's a perfectly fine thing. And if Waugh plays him, okay, move Sprong to the third line then. You're probably not going to be paying him too much. If he were truly in demand at this point and was getting, the money out of this, he would have been paid by now. At least that's kind of my headcanon on this. I'm curious what money's going to be left after the Jack Eye and Barron deals, like I talked about in yesterday's episode. And Caden Gooley's extension won't kick until next year, so I'm not worried about that. Assuming that, Jack Eye and Barron come in at a combined $5 million, you still have $5 million of cap to play with. And then also you have Carey Price's LTIR cap hit, which if they are taking on TJ Oshie, might get you right to where that threshold is, that when you put Carey Price on LTIR, you get that full pool to play with. So yes to Sprong, absolutely not to McLeod. And the whole Matheson trade thing to me is, I don't understand it. His value is going to be highest next year, especially if he has another strong, let's say 40-point season this year. I don't know if he'll hit 60 points again. It would be super cool if he does. But if he hits another 40, 45-point season going into next year, on an expiring deal with those kind of point totals and those kind of minutes he plays, he's going to be an in-demand piece, and the price for him is going to be even higher at that point.
We have plenty more mailbag questions and so many really fun off-season ones, and that's all coming up in just one moment. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I know you love sports. This is a sports podcast. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime we're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. There's still so much football going on. Well, soccer going on. That's what you guys call it here. There's Major League Baseball going on. There's still so much going on in the summer. I know it's not hockey. I know it's not it's not basketball. I know football isn't coming back until closer to the fall, but there's still so much going on FanDuel.com. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's really quickly get back into the mailbag questions. This is another one from Bill Van V. Everyone is sad to see Scott go, and we hope his new challenges are smoother than the Habs power play. As a parting gift, I would like to throw you a dinner party, and you get to choose 3 all-time great Habs as guests. Well, sort of. You're completely free to choose players from any era, but the 3 guests have stipulations that must be followed. They are: only one player can be born in Quebec, only one other can be from any other province or state in North America, and a 3rd guest must be from Europe. You have quite the selections. Perhaps a few cocktails may make the things easier. My European is going to be Saku because he's there's probably more legendary players. I know there's more legendary players, but for me, the European has to be Saku.
I am actually going to not pick Saku in that regard because that's the easy answer. I'm going to pick Mats Naslund, actually, who I think is one of the most underrated players in Canadiens history. I love Mats Naslund. He played in just an era where there are probably so many insane stories. And I want to ask him about that photo with Larry Robinson that he took. I can't remember if it was a Summit Series or an Olympic Games or what it was, where they swapped jerseys, and he's standing there in Larry Robinson's jersey, and it looks like a blanket has been draped over him in that regard. I think that Mats Naslund is my pick from Europe for that. And I also realize I'm kind of going mostly back in time here because I want to hear a lot of the stories from some of these players. Out of anyone, are we going with players that are just alive at this point? Because that also does help a little bit in this. I assume they have to be alive.
Yeah, they can be any era. They just only one Quebecer, one North American outside of Quebec, and what do you call it? And one European.
I need to check one thing. Oh, that's easy.
I know. Chris Chelios.
No, not Chris Chelios.
No?
My other 2 picks are going to be Larry Robinson and Patrick Waugh then. In that I get a snapshot of several years of Canadiens hockey. You have Robinson, who started in the 70s, into the 80s, played into the 90s. You have Patrick Waugh, who started at the end of the 80s, and Mats Naslund that kind of blends in the middle of both of them there, and Waugh played into the 2000s. And just putting the 3 of them together, I think that you're going to get stories from Larry Robinson about playing the Broad Street Bullies, playing the Don Cherry Bruins. You're going to get Patrick Waugh stories of playing everybody, and Mats Naslund being a guy that came in when smaller guys were generally not thought of as a bigger part of the NHL and successful teams. I think the 3 of them there's going to be some incredible stories and just incredible things to hear about from all of them. If we're doing a second tier of all of this, I'm picking Saku Koivu. I'm probably picking Jean Beliveau, and then I'm probably picking I've already picked a European. I need someone else from who is not from North America.
You want Chris Chelios' stories. Come on.
The thing is, I do and I don't, because I'm indifferent to that a little bit.
Okay, but see, it's a dinner party. So mine, I didn't finish mine. Hold on. I picked Guy Lafleur, Chris Chelios, and Saku Koivu.
Saku he's such the odd man out in that, because he's so like.
I know he's from the mediocrity era. I get it. I know, and he's like he's not. Well, I'm sure he partied, but not like those guys did.
Yeah. My other thought was potentially would be Steve Shutt in there too, who played for some of the best years in the Canadiens team history, as my non-Quebecois, non-European selection for that second dinner party. But my main one is going to be Naslund, Robinson, and Waugh. This younger generation, I'm going to give them a couple of years before inviting guys like Carey Price, Brendan Gallagher, and whomever to that next round of dinner parties. That I should just go look at all their Instagram stories from this past weekend of that wedding, where I hope anybody got Jake Evans a bottle of water at some point. Please tell me someone did that.
All right. If you were consuming this content on social media, can somebody tell me, were all the guests wearing black? Like, I feel like it must have been like a request. Like, this wedding was fully black and white. I don't know. I couldn't tell, but if you have some idea, let us know. And the wedding, of course, we are speaking about is Brendan Gallagher and Emma Fortin. Congratulations to the happy couple. And speaking of Brendan Gallagher, I have a mailbag question from Jordan Roberts, one of our brother friends. Hey, Lauren Scott, with the recent news of Stamkos leaving the Lightning and the fan reaction that has come about it, got me wondering about Brendan Gallagher and his tenure in Montreal. Do you think the Canadiens will see out his contract if they're competitive in a couple of years, or could we see a buyout trade, and what would that reaction look like?
I think they're going to see out the end of his deal. I think that he still has plenty of value in that we've talked about it a lot on the show, is that he still generates scoring chances. He still does all the things that he does, is just that he doesn't have the same shooting ability that he once had, which he shattered both of his hands. That's not an easy thing to come back from. And then he also had a knee or a hip or whatever it was that was really slowing him down. Another full offseason to rest. Brendan Gallagher ended last year on a pretty strong note. Double-digit goals, looking a little bit rejuvenated, playing alongside Yoel Armia, and I believe it was both Jake Evans and Christian Dvorak as their center. And that's a good thing. And I think that even he's got, I believe, 3 years left. By the time that they're competitive, he's likely going to be playing a fourth line role there. And I look at like what Kyle Okposo did for not Columbus, but Florida this year as a veteran guy, that he can be a locker room leader, an on-ice leader and everything, even if he's, not the guy that he once was, a 30-goal guy. I think that Gallagher does enough nice things that unless his regression is very sudden this year, that he's not generating anything, I think you keep him on the team for now. I think that there's value in that, especially with guys who are upcoming like an Xavier Simoneau, who play a very similar style and want to get to that net front and create havoc. Learning from Brendan Gallagher is not the worst thing in the world there. Even if he can, I'm not even saying Pizzetta is going to be on the team beyond this year, but someone like Michael Pizzetta, that you want to be an energy guy, here are the things that you can do with that. I think that there's every opportunity for that as well. I don't think he's gone this year. I think with term on his contract, unless another team is looking to make the floor, I can't see Brendan Gallagher going anywhere until there's at least a year left on his contract. And even then, the Canadiens might just hold on to him as a veteran, leader on this team as they continue to get younger in this starting lineup a bit.
What do you think the fan reaction will be?
It'll be split, because there are going to be some people that look at, that contract, can't wait to have that off the books. Those who do not have the same emotional attachment and that look at things purely from a number or statistical cap-friendly standpoint on things. Brendan Gallagher was part of that next generation coming up. Well, Pacioretty and Plekanec and Subban and Markov and Price were already here. He was coming up with Alex Galchenyuk, and then years of just empty prospect promises behind that, waiting for someone else to step up and help him. I think fans are going to be sad to see him go. And I think they're also underselling how good of a player he was before the injuries took their toll. He's, not a point per game player, but he's put up over 400 points and he's chasing some pretty big names in the goal category for the Canadiens. I think he would be sorely missed by this fan base. And if he were to get a return game in that season for whatever it might be, there would be a huge ovation for that. I think it would be a lot like when PK came back, that this was a fan favorite and a long-time fan favorite. You go to a game and you see Gallagher 11 jerseys everywhere. I think he'd be sorely missed in that. Some people are going to say, well, the contract, but I think the majority of people are going to go, that's, a guy who bled the Canadiens every single time he stepped on the ice.
We've got a few more mailbag questions coming up in one moment. All right. I will tell you, we are not done with the mailbag questions, so we will still have some more on tomorrow's show because a lot of these are like really good questions. We've got one from Kyle R., the other brother in the equation, but wait, there's more brothers. Kyle says, hi, Laura, Scott, my alleged cooler yet actual younger brother, Jordan. And then Nicholas, are you there too? Nicholas, if you are, please, we want to hear from you as well. I was wondering what your ideal lineups would look like using with the players we have on the team and have drafted. No trades or call-ups are allowed. No worries about European or NCAA rules. If they've been drafted or are signed to the Rocket or the Habs, they are eligible for the lineup. Mine would be, feel free to share, discuss what could be improved, or bash my line because I'm a terrible armchair GM. Here's the lineup. Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Caulfield, first line. Obviously, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Newhook, Duck, Demidov. Harvey Pinard, Beck, Gallagher, Kidney, Evans, Roy. And then defense pairings, Hudson, Savard, Gouli, Reinbacher, Matheson, Mailloux, goalies, Montembeault, and Fowler. And then P.S., if you have to sign off as the cooler brother, are you really that cool? Asking for a friend. All right. This brother duel, we're going to resolve it before the end of the summer.
Well, that'll be up to you and Ian then by the time August rolls around. You can have a mediation session starting in August if it's not solved by then. My lineup then, this is going to be tough because there's a lot of good prospects in this lineup. And without the restriction of as long as they're under the Canadiens umbrella, yes, that we can include them. Got it.
We just can't trade them.
Yes. So Slav, Suzuki, Caulfield, first line, done, dusted. I'm going to say, and this might be slightly controversial, Wah, Doc, Demidov, Newhook. I'm going to put Owen back in there for right now. Man, I don't want to put Josh Anderson in this lineup. I don't. I'm sorry. I might actually put Brendan Gallagher in there just as their kind of net front guy. And then on a fourth line, you have Harvey Pinard, you have Jake Evans, and you have Xavier Simoneau. On defense, assuming this is next year, I think you go Matheson, Gouli, you have Hudson, and you have... you know what? I want to put David Reinbacher there because Hudson Reinbacher seems like it could be a lot of fun. And then you have Jack Mailloux as your third pairing. They worked really well together in the AHL despite playing very similar styles, but it seemed to bring out the best in both of them. And then Montembeault and Fowler for right now. Eventually Fowler will take that other spot. Healthy scratch, I think you have Raphael Harvey-Pinard as your 13th forward, which is a pretty good spot to be in. Justin Barron is probably your spare defenseman. I would also not say no to Jaden Struble over Logan Mailloux on that third pair. If Matheson is gone, you can kind of shift people up in this lineup as needed on that. There's so much talent that this is hard to do because we've left off guys like Adam Engstrom, players who are going to be coming out of the NCAA. There's so much. I think that's the best I can do with that. And this goes to show, and we talked about this a lot, is if one of these prospects does not crack the NHL roster this year, it's because there's a million players in this organization right now. And sometimes you just go where you're going to get the most ice time. That is good for them. If Lane Hudson plays AHL games, I don't think he will. That's not a problem. It's a good problem to have that we have too many good potential prospects that we can't fit all of them in the lineup at once.
I like it. It's definitely like, it feels like an embarrassment of riches, and hopefully my saying that didn't jinx anything. And then we're going to close out the show with another question from Robert Rice. But again, we've got fun mailbag questions still coming up this week. If we didn't ask it now, it doesn't mean we didn't ask it at all. Or we're not going to ask it at all. From Robert Rice, again, our good friend. We open the show and then we close the show. With the trading of Kovacevic, do you think this is all the tinkering we will see regarding the Habs blue line before the regular season starts? As it stands, we have a presumptive grouping of Matheson, Savard, Gouli, Xhekaj, Harris, Barron, but also need to weigh the emergence of Struble, Hudson, Reinbacher, and Mailloux. While obviously some of the latter four will start in the AHL, how do you project the likelihood someone like Harris or even Savard gets moved to make room for someone like Hudson?
I mean, for me, I think Harris is the most likely piece to just move in any kind of deal because he's got an easily digestible contract, and he's a very he's a plug and play piece on a lot of teams. Savard, I still think, is going to be at the deadline, but if Harris moves, I think Hudson's going to be in your lineup no matter what. I also think Justin Barron is someone who might get moved at this point just because Hudson does what you do offensively, but potentially better, and you have waiver eligibility. This is why what I just said is, hey, if Hudson goes down to start the season here, there's no guarantee he's going to sit down there forever either. They may just be like, hey, we're going to put you here, and then we're going to work out some trades, because we know preseason, like that first week of the season, injuries will hit everybody, whether it be because of offseason or whatnot. I think the idea is you move both Harris, Savard, and I think Barron are your top three trade movements now that Kovacevic is gone. He's not, he's gone to New Jersey, which is worse than dying, I think, at this point. So
poor guy. We love that guy in his van life.
Yeah, it's just I hate New Jersey, so it's fine.
There are a lot of people who do.
Well, yeah, because no, I'm not doing that rant on this. We'll do that during Hot Ones at some point. The thing is that Hudson's going to probably force his way into this lineup. He showed last year that he can hang in big minutes at the NHL level against a team. It's not like Detroit wasn't playing for anything. This is not like they were playing a team that had been eliminated from the playoffs and he was playing big minutes. This was Detroit at their most desperate and playing some of their best hockey when it counted in those two games. And he held up pretty well to that task. He's going to force his way in, and it's going to force Kent Hughes to make a move. I still think that as this summer kind of slows down and dies down a little bit here, you're going to see a move get made in there at some point. Very likely Harris or Savard. I don't think Savard will move this year because they like that veteran leadership, and I think they might pair Hudson up with him. Savard is that safety valve outlet, basically, and Lane can go off and be jacked up on pixie sticks and Mountain Dew doing all of his cool Lane Hudson stuff. And David Savard can be the exasperated parent at the park chasing after their child. And then you have Matheson, Gouli as your top pairing and whatnot in that. So,
what I wish I had done throughout our tenure is I wish I had clipped and saved all of your metaphors and then made a supercut of them, but I did not. And I do not have all of the episodes.
If someone wants to go back and do that, I'll Venmo you for it. There's going to be a lot of metaphors about toilets on fire, I think, during part of the Dominique Ducharme era. Bears, toilets on fires, car crashes, poop, a lot of poop.
Buses, things.
No, that was just me wanting to be run over by a bus. That's not really a metaphor. That was a cry for help. I know there are metaphors because there was one, and there's a clip of it on Twitter somewhere still from when Nolan from Locked On Red Wings clipped this for the national show, that they should nuke the Department of Player Safety, let it be eaten by a bear, let the bear poop it out, and then nuke the poop and then burn whatever's left. And we are very off topic on this, which I know you're so surprised on this podcast, but if anyone wants to go and send us your favorite metaphors that I've said on this show, please tweet us at LO_Canadiens or LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com because we love that stuff.
Or leave them in YouTube comments.
Yeah, because we can start reading them out when I do Hot Ones at the end of the month here, when my time on the show has come to an end.
So yes, and Ian and I will have very big shoes to fill when it comes to metaphors, but you heard the man. It is time to send us your favorite metaphors and all kinds of mailbag questions. Also, no comments on that virtual background. I am in the middle of a move that is going to take most of this month, so I've been mandated by the network to not show what's going on in my apartment right now. And in the meantime, you can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, LO_Canadiens, DM us, at reply us, tag us, whatever you want to call it. You can leave them in the YouTube comments as well. Your favorite metaphors, thoughts, opinions, guest requests, topic requests, all of that stuff. And in the meantime, subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you all tomorrow.